Hey there, everyone. Oh my gosh, I should have spoken on off mic before I started that sentence. Apologies for this coughing in your ear. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is Christy. It is Weekend Winters. It's on a Saturday, though, because tomorrow I have to be on a train on my way to the Netherlands. I really should have sorted that out before. Tell you what, I'll just hydrate myself here. Hi to everyone in the chat. How are you guys doing? Take off my muted sign. Right, so show lineup is gonna be this. I don't need this now. Music is off. We're gonna talk a little bit about the show and some housekeeping and my life and stuff. I'll update you guys with how I am. Then we're gonna do a PragerU video, but it's gonna be a little different from the ones we've done before. See how you guys like that. And then at the end, I don't think I'm going to go for very long because honestly, guys, I'm so tired from all of my travels. So I will be wrapping up the show, I would imagine around an hour and 15 or so. But I wanted to update you on what's been happening in the YouTube rap scene. There's been so much drama and so much, so many songs coming out. And I've been meaning to talk to you guys about this for a while now, and I've missed it. But I want to catch you guys up and give you some recommendations if you're looking for some really interesting YouTube artists that you can check out. Let's start. Yeah, I'm tired, you guys. It's been a week. It was a good week. I was in Bergen. It was lovely. It was also very cool in Bergen compared to Cologne, where my apartment is recently, like just before we came on air, hit 30 degrees. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and change this so you guys can see yourselves in the chat a little bit. I'm going to move my window so I'll be in the other corner. Sorry, I'm just organizing myself a little bit here with my OBS and transition. Boom. Yeah, so now you guys can see yourself. I see ya. Hello. What was I saying? Yes. Okay, so a little catch you up on just my life. Because, you know, I'm here for you guys when I'm really tired, because to do a YouTube channel, you gotta grind it out. And that means showing up even when you're tired, 90% of it showing up. And also, it's not that much work to come and hang out with you guys. And I like seeing you guys and checking in and having the chat with you. So, but it is, I'm tired. So the reason I'm tired mostly is because I did a bunch of recording for my job. I'm making videos, promotional videos for digital infrastructures for the social sciences. I have this weird Venn diagram of skill sets that I'm a social scientist who has overseen the construction of 2 digital infrastructures based on metadata standards like DDI in order to facilitate more transparent and digital transfer of information about social survey variables, questions, for replication, data pooling, all kinds of stuff. They're really trying to take data into the 21st century by digitizing it all, and we're creating these digital tools. But we need to also market them, and I have my YouTube skills. So anyway, that was even more than I wanted to say about all that. So I was in Bergen till yesterday. Gosh, was it yesterday? Yeah. And then I had a crazy Friday. I'm just going to tell you this, and then I'm going to be done with it. It'll be out of my system. It'll be vented. But I got up 8-ish, packed all my equipment, checked out of the hotel by 9:30, walked basically San Francisco steep uphill for 3 blocks to the Norwegian data center, where I gave a 1-hour talk on the technical and production elements of webinars in the 21st century, in the YouTube era, to make sure that your webinars when you're doing trainings and other things with data, information, and the social science data and the archives is engaging to the audiences and technically proficient. And then I got on a bus to go to the airport, shuttle bus, and then I got on a flight to Oslo, and then a half hour later I was on a flight to Copenhagen. And then when I landed in Copenhagen, I had 20 minutes to get to my gate, and it was a 17-minute walk to Dusseldorf, where I got a train to Cologne, where I ended up getting a train home and then walking to my house, arriving just before midnight. And then while I was coming back, there was this crazy conversation going on Twitter. Some Jake Stan was trying to say that I was a gatekeeper for feminism and progressives. on the internet. And I was very intrigued by this. Like, oh, really? What gates am I keeping? Who have I kicked out? Where is the list of approved feminists? And I didn't take it at all seriously. And a bunch of people ended up jumping in. And that had me so wound up, I didn't get to sleep until almost 4 a.m. So, running on fumes. Sorry to just dump all this. You guys are my therapist tonight. And then today, a very nice time, I met up with my patron, Mariana, who you guys might remember from Patron Hangouts. We had breakfast or brunch together, and then I came back and I took a nap before the show. And now here we are. So that's why the show's going to be only an hour long. I hope that wasn't too boring. By the way, as always, I'll do timestamps. So I should have said this before. Like, if you want to skip all this crap, I'll put timestamps after the show. But while I was traveling, one of the things I had was time to do some YouTubing. You'll notice that there are 2 new videos on my channel. One of them is a sort of edited mirror shout out to Dusty Smith and his Cult of Dusty podcast, the Codcast, on his channel, which you guys should go check out and support if you can. He's doing some really great content, really great work. And what we can do as a community, to help each other and lift up each other's content, that's obviously, what we should be doing. So I wanted to extract part of one of his episodes that really focused on Shoe on Head, because he had done so much research in looking at so many of these claims that she would just throw out, and he would find videos and debunk them. He wouldn't just tell you that she was wrong, he would show you. He showed you. And I felt like my audience, in the case they missed it, really should see that. I wanted to kind of signal boost that a little bit more. So that's up on my channel. Because I've been so busy, I've fallen behind mirroring the happy hour. Also, Kevin's audio has been so atrocious that I try to sometimes edit out the gaps, but to edit out that many 2-second gaps ends up becoming just a Sisyphean effort. So I haven't mirrored many of them. However, his audio is sorted now, going forward. But one of the things that he did, one of the last ones he did with his old mic, which wasn't too bad, if I'm honest, was a hangout we did with Chrisiosity about Jake's stubborn adherence to his right to just use... I try not to... I guess Dick could be a name, so it's maybe that won't get me demonetized. I try on my Sunday shows to be family friendly, even though the content I'm talking about. But anyway, saying that to whomever he wants, because he thinks if he looks at you as an equal, he can just say whatever he wants to you that he would say, the worst thing he would say to someone else, apparently. It was a really good conversation. It probably was a bit long, if I'm honest. When I went back, if we had done it as an organized show, I think we would have discussed all of the points, because we had commonalities, but also, Chrisiosity has a great perspective, and Kevin, of course, has his insights and his humor. I think if we had kind of structured it a bit more, we could have turned it almost into like a 6 or 7 point discussion, more structured. But that's up on the channel. That being said, so I was doing those videos, trying to make up for the fact that I've been gone for a while for you guys and haven't been doing too much. Was also thinking about this show, because I do want to get back. We really need to start. I need to talk about serious politics again. Since the Sargon drama and UKIP, it was sort of an excuse to not have to deal with Trump so much in my YouTube channel. And after that all happened, I kind of was loath to get back into it. And I considered where that would fit in my Sunday show. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about the fact that I don't want to intrude on my Sunday mornings with all that political stuff. I need a bubble, and I think you guys want a bubble. We can do easier stuff like PragerU videos. And after the summer, we'll move on from PragerU, and we'll find something else to do during the day. But I think I'm going to take up I'll be picking up another show. I'm going to try to really put together that weeknight show on a regular basis, and that will be a more serious politics show. It'll be like an end of the day at the office, and I'm already in work mode kind of show. Thinking it will start mid to late July, because I have to be in Sicily for a wedding on the 17th, so I can't do it before then, definitely. Maybe sometime after the 20th of July kind of time period. And that will be a show where, one, it'll be more time friendly for the Americans and North Americans and anybody in that time zone. Also, it will be more serious politics and keeping up with just the continued path of fascism that Trump is taking us down. So that being said, I'm going to check in with the chat and see what people have to say. I've seen a couple of people tag me. Some people had some comments about Dusty, I think. Trying to get this... So let me scroll back a little bit, see if anyone's tagged me earlier. Is it 2 million degrees in Germany, like the UK? Well, I said it's about 30, which for Americans, that's 90 degrees. I don't know. I've got my, you can maybe tell, I've got my shade pulled. I don't know if you can hear my fan going in the background, but I have a fan going. I like warm weather, so this 90 degrees when it's not humid is not torture for me. But obviously this is, it's a heat wave for the time of year. Climate change, we're in the middle of it. It's not coming, it's here. We're experiencing the first effects, the early effects of climate change. Like, the tipping point's been reached, in my opinion. Now we just see how far it goes. All right, so what else? Tristan talked about Shoe on Head and Dusty as if they're comparable people, which I think is really unfair. I would agree. I think that that's very unfair. Especially when, well, you know, if you want to say they're both YouTubers, that's comparable. And they're both Americans, I think. That's comparable. They're both of Caucasian descent. But when it comes to their YouTube presence and what they put out there as what should be talked about or mirrored or thought or framed, they're very, 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 very different. All right. I like a soothing Sunday as well. I know, just like the weekends, I can't do it all the time. You know, I can't go 24/7. So let's just have coffee in the mornings and punch down. Well, I guess Prager is much bigger punching up, but they're so easy to knock off all their straw men. Another person asked, you can about the Democratic presidential debates now with Kevin excuse to avoid Trump more. Yeah, the debates were really interesting. I think we've seen the results. I'll just talk a little bit about that. I don't know if Kevin and I are gonna chat about it. I'm leaving again tomorrow, so I don't know when the next happy hour would be. Not probably till Wednesday, and things might have moved on by then. But it was, of course, for me as a feminist, very interesting that when women were given the opportunity to compete, both nights, most people agreed were won by women. So, you know, women can compete when we're given the platform, you know, and a lot of the structural barriers are starting to come down, as we're seeing women are breaking through. And that was very exciting. Obviously, the reason why I have been supporting Harris is because I think she's highly electable, and I know some people have problems with her. We're all going to have problems with candidates. I think it's important to look at what they've been doing, basically, you know, like Me Too and forward. How have they reacted to the Trump administration? Because those are the challenges we're facing. Do they acknowledge things they did in the past were maybe not so great and they learned from them and they're better on those issues now? Then let's acknowledge that. And to me, Harris seems to be doing a lot of that. Also, I just think she's an incredibly powerful, persuasive presence. I saw what people saw on the stage the other night before she announced. That's why I backed her, because she's got a star quality. She's got that factor that commands people's attention because they want to know what she's going to say, you know? So we're going to see what happens. It's still early on in the game. We're going to see what the next set of primary debates, you know, a lot can change based on the dynamics of who's on the stage, what's been happening. I will say, though, in terms of Biden, I told you so. I mean, not that anybody that I know supports Biden. Like, who in my circle is going to support Biden? Hey, by the way, other thing that made me happy, I didn't mention this yet. I'm going to move my mic a little bit. Yeah, this came in the post today. For those of you who are internet comment etiquette fans, ain't no Planet X coming. Because ain't no space. Because ain't no globe Earth. So I've wanted one of these for such a long time, and I finally just went, yep, I'm gonna get one. So there we go. Well, support YouTube creators. Also, I think it's hilarious. The thing is, I can't find the video where this first appeared. That's the weirdest thing. I see more people reference. I see it in a video being referenced than I can find the original. So if you guys know where the original is, and it's not the Blue Planet, and it's not the Mandela effect. actually fell for that. For those of you who get that, wow, that's a deep cut of internet comment etiquette. If you get why that would be funny. So that actually is. All right. Anyway, put that in the chat. Okay. So did I cover everything? New show. Did I complain about my life? My first world problems. Yes, I did. Talked about, I think that's everything. Let's move on. Let's talk about PragerU. And in the spirit of having things that aren't quite so complicated and heavy, because we've been doing some politics on the PragerU side, I thought I would get out the other geeky aspect of my personality. And I noticed when I was looking for one, I was like, okay, let me look beyond the politics one, beyond the easy ones, and let's see what their other content was. Because I hadn't, other than their politics stuff, I really don't know much about what they put out. And I found one of the 10 Commandments. I was like, oh, I bet this is going to be good. I clicked on it and watched the first about 2.5 minutes and went, oh yes. Oh yes. This is good Sunday substitution, Saturday for Sunday substitution fare. So we're going to watch the 10 Commandments video by PragerU. But first, this is what you can see in my history I was checking out. And I'm going to tell you eventually, you guys, I'm going to recommend this Little Dicky freestyle on Sway. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If I wasn't worried about getting demonetized, I would play a sample of that, because that was a lot of fun. That was crazy. But getting back to something less fun, or fun for different reasons, I guess. We're going to take a look at PragerU. Before we start talking about their spin on the 10 Commandments, I want to first do a nerd recommendation and hydrate. 90 degrees. It's probably like 27 in my room, if I'm honest, so I'm a little bit exaggerating. Not in the sun. Dr. Christine Hayes, or maybe she's Professor Christine Hayes now. On YouTube, there are Yale courses where you can get basically an undergraduate's entire first-year course on a topic. And included in those are Professor, I think she's Professor. Let me look her up really quick. I'll just do Christine Hayes, Christina Aguilera. Yeah, okay. You can tell I've searched for her before. Professor. Well, it says professional or profession. Profession. I think they meant professor. Yes, she's a professor. And she has, I guess it's in 24 parts on the Hebrew Bible. I've watched this at least twice. It's a lecture. She's very entertaining. She writes on the board. She obviously is a master of her topic. She's very pleasant to listen to, and she's very engaging. So if you like that sort of thing, it's the sort of thing you would like. And that's the sort of thing I like, because I'm a nerd. I like listening to lectures and learning about random things from people who are smarter than me, because then they tell me the stuff they spent all their time learning, and I just have to listen and absorb it. That's the most awesome thing in the world, I think. Anyway, she goes over the history of not only the texts themselves, but the geographical, political situation, the beliefs at the time, because beliefs about gods evolve, and we see that in the text. If we look back, I've talked before about how Genesis has 2 creation stories and 2 flood stories, because there were 2 communities practicing the similar faith, but removed at a distance. And then one kingdom was overrun by, or got their butts kicked or whatever, and the refugees fled, and they couldn't just abandon their story. So a redactor came along later and helped edit them together, along with, I think, one other author. There are 4 distinct literary writing styles that modern biblical scholars have identified in Genesis. This is the kind of stuff you're going to learn by listening to her. All right. I'm not saying anything because I'm smart. I'm smart because I listened to her. And I've read other things too. One of the things that, you learn eventually, especially if you're an atheist, is that the 10 Commandments themselves are not the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments, there's actually 3 versions of the Ten Commandments. Now, I looked at Wikipedia, and Wikipedia isn't as clear on this, but Rational Wiki is. I thought we would start there. And they start, of course, with a quote from Christopher Hitchens, but it's worth making the point here compared to what we're going to hear from PragerU. All right. Yep, you guys can, mostly see that. Hold on. Do I need to? I guess that won't change much. What I'll do is I'll kind of narrow you guys up here in the chat. Squeeze up, budge up, go on, budge up. And then I can make this a little bit bigger because my eyes are tired and it's only at 100% and my computer is very far away. It's very far away, right? To quote Hitchens, then there is the very salient question of what the commandments do not say. It is too modern to notice that there is nothing about the protection of children from cruelty, nothing about rape, nothing about slavery, and nothing about genocide. Or is it too exacting in context to notice that some of these very offenses are about to be positively recommended? By that, I think he means if you look across the texts, or even sometimes within the same book or chapter, you have God commanding people to, murder children, to enslave people, to steal their things. So, kind of mixed signals, to say the least. The other thing that is worth noting, in my opinion, is that there are 3 different versions of the Ten Commandments. Again, to read from Rational Wiki, there are 3 versions of the Ten Commandments in the Bible. 2 of them are very similar. Exodus 22 to Exodus 22 to 17, and Deuteronomy 5:6 to Deuteronomy 5. Oh, those 3 in a row. Sorry. I misread. Exodus 22, chapter 2, Exodus 20, chapter 17, and Deuteronomy, I don't know. What are these? There's 3 versions of them, but they give multiple. I'm confused. Anyway, 3 versions. The first 2 they mention are like the ones we're more traditionally associated with and are closer together. But then there's the 3rd version, which is quite different, as they write. The 3rd version in Exodus 34:12 to Exodus 34:26. Okay, that is, why don't they just put, I'm used to reading it the way that, traditional Bible scholars, they just do the chapter and the verses. Anyway, moving on. This is the 2nd set which were given to Moses following the destruction of the first tablets when he suffered from an anger management failure after witnessing the Israelites worshiping the golden calf. While it has a few similarities to the original set, it does not include the well-known rational commandments such as thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not kill, but has instead instructions about holy days, not cooking goats, kids, in their mother's milk, and God expresses a distaste for sacrifices containing honey, leaven, or both bread and yeast. Yada yada yada. So let's look at this the 3rd set of commandments from Exodus 34. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Wonder why they didn't pick that one. Do not make any idols. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Aviv, for in that month you came out of Egypt. The first offspring of every womb belongs to me, including all the firstborn males of your livestock, whether from herd or flock. Redeem the firstborn donkey with a lamb. I don't know. But if you do not redeem it, break its neck? Break its neck? Redeem all your firstborn sons. I guess the other ones were sacrifices too, but this was just very explicit in terms of its method of execution. Redeem all your firstborn sons. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Wow, jealous and greedy. Whew. There's no sliding scale for God. There's no pro bono work going on here for this all-compassionate being. 6 days shall you labor, but on the 7th shall you rest. Even during the plowing season and harvest, you must rest. So if you starve later because you lost 10 days, or maybe not 10 days, let's say 4 days of harvesting across the year. Oh well. Celebrate the Festival of Weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvest and the Festival of Ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times a year all your men are to appear before me, the sovereign Lord of God Israel. Okay, big gathering, big party apparently. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. And do not let any of the sacrifices from the Passover festival remain until morning. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil. He's just a lot about what he's owed. There's a lot about me. And there are 10 of them. And they are commandments. All right, finishing. Bring the best of your first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Well, that's compelling. I'm morally moved. How are you guys doing? Are your hearts aflutter? Right. With that framework, let's go back into my history where I started to watch the Prager video. And now I will have to get my headphones in. But I think, yes, you can see I started and stopped when it was too good. I wanted to live react with you guys. All right, I think though I'm gonna have to switch up the camera here. Maybe not. Let's hit play and see where all of this lands. I might end up having to move this over here. Sorry guys, I'll just cover you up for a bit. Or I could swap you. I could do that as well. Boom shaka laka laka boom shaka laka laka boom shaka laka boom. I kind of messed that up at the end. I suddenly panicked. I lost confidence. I lost confidence in my freestyle. Alright, the other thing I need to do is unmute the desktop audio. I don't want there to be an echo in case the song will break.
As did the Ten Commandments.
And I
Western civilization, the civilization that developed universal human rights.
Oh no, he's going! Stop!
Created women's equality.
Okay. Oh, this gets so bad so fast, or so good. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna do the opposite now. I'm gonna give chat some precedence here. Get a few more of you on there because I know I'm in the way. I'm taking up my space here. I know. I can see you. All right, we all good, chat? By the way, should I check in before we start the video? Just do a quick check-in? Nah, probably not, because people who are watching it for this bit are like, come on, get to it already. Been talking about the New Testament for 20 freaking minutes, geek. Come on, we came for some Prager dunking. Are we 35 minutes? No, we're only 25 minutes, 30 minutes into the stream. All right. Think this sound should be all right, but we're about to find out.
No document in world history so changed the world for the better, as did the Ten Commandments.
Okay, this is going to be obviously the thesis. Well, of course, we know with a PragerU video, the thesis ends up wandering, but that is just a claim that I cannot stand by. I don't think that one is empirically tenable. Let me just change the screen here a little bit. Actually, what I can do, as long as I'm mucking about with my size, there we go. You guys can see a bit more of yourself now. So, a ridiculous, unsubstantiated claim, par for the course for Prager.
Western civilization, the civilization that developed universal human rights, created women's equality, ended slavery, created parliamentary democracy, among other unique...
All of those things came from secularism. I'm just going to point out. All of those things came from secularism. If anything, religions tried to stop people from doing those advancements. There were religious arguments based in the Bible as to why slavery was okay. So literally everything he pointed to there. I'm not going to... Okay, we're on second 21. Remember that, everyone. First one was... oh gosh, can we mute him? We don't have to listen to him twice. Universal human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to my knowledge, was developed after the Second World War by what was becoming the United Nations. Had nothing to do with the Bible or the Ten Commandments. Certainly nothing in there even comes close to the sorts of things that you end up getting. They're talking about rights, not thou shalt nots. The next one he talked about, I can't even believe he claimed this one. Women's equality? Women's equality? Are you kidding me? It's religious conservatives and fundamentalists who are the most vocal opponents of the idea that women have a basic equality in the public sphere, in the social sphere, in the religious sphere. If Christianity was, or the 10 Commandments were the basis of women's equality, why don't we see equal numbers of women and men in positions of power in religious organizations? It's because it's not from the 10 Commandments. It comes from secularism. So when we got religion out of, summer day, people are enjoying it. When we got religion out of government and started focusing on rights and equality, and we've been slowly moving in that direction ever since. Ending slavery, just ridiculous. And the idea that the 10 Commandments was part of parliamentary government, if you look at what Paul says in his letter to the Romans, I think it is, basically says whatever monarch is up there, God put them there, so you got to just pay your taxes and do your duty. There was no, if they're a terrible tyrant, you can overthrow them and institute a government that will better represent the will of the people. It was basically against the will of God to go against the king or the queen. And so just straight up lies. All right, do we have to put the sound back on now? All right.
Democracy, among other unique achievements, would not have developed
without secularism.
As you will see when each of the 10 Commandments is explained, these commandments are as relevant today as when they were given over 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, when people check out your property, including your wife, because your wife is your property in the 10 Commandments, how is that still relevant today? That'll be an interesting one to learn about.
In fact, they're so relevant that the 10 Commandments are all that is necessary to make a good world, a world free of tyranny and cruelty.
Remember what Hitchens pointed out, these selected, right? There's not a 10 Commandments, just the particular list they're picking out here, out of the 3 they could choose from. There's no prohibition of child cruelty or slavery. Just straight up lies. I'm so glad they got demonetized as being propaganda. It's terrible.
Imagine for a moment a world in which there was no murder or theft. In such a world, there would be no need for armies or police.
I'm sorry, Tom McDonald has made such a stellar point in the chat. I have to stop and read it out, which is parliamentary government or some sort of representative government from our system is more associated with the Roman structures than, like Jewish texts, Jewish kings, or the Christian monarchs. So yes, very excellent point, Tom. On point, as always.
Or weapons, men and women and children could walk anywhere at any time of day or night.
Murder includes, at least legally, second-degree murder, unintentional homicide, vehicular homicide, or getting drunk and doing something stupid and, you end up killing someone. The idea that just because the commandment "do not murder" is out there, and even if everyone lived up to it, there would be no murder, is a ridiculous claim just on its face. It's completely ridiculous.
Without any fear of being killed or robbed.
No, because again, second-degree homicide is a thing.
Imagine further a world in which no one coveted what belonged to their neighbor.
But notice, this is what I noticed. Look at that house. It's great for rich people to say, "Don't covet my stuff," when the other person is completely poor. And as we said, when we're looking at that list of what is God's, there's no sliding scale. No pro bono work on that. So basically, stop complaining about what you don't have and let the rich thrive at your expense. How is that just? It's basically saying tolerate economic oppression and inequality, despite the fact that if you just restructure how things are distributed, there wouldn't be so much suffering. I'm not a god, but that seems pretty simple thing to tell people to make the world a better place.
A world in which children honored their mother and father and the family unit thrived.
which basically means a dictatorship within the home, which is great for of course, cis het men, because of course that's the only family unit they would acknowledge, get to basically run the house the way they see fit. And how is that, again, good for human flourishing and self and autonomy and rights and women's equality? I see conflicts. I see cognitive dissonance between the concepts being presented here. Of course, I should also say that this does not take into account the emotional destruction of of families that they don't consider appropriate, and all the suffering that would cause. They're going to force everyone to live in this narrow box, or you basically, don't have a family, or you live at the margins. That's expanding human suffering, which goes against the idea of equality and basic human rights that he laid out.
A world in which people obeyed the injunction not to lie.
All right, fair enough, but I think we would also all agree that sometimes we tell little white lies, right? Just to get along, go along, whatever, just to smooth along things, not because we're trying to be deceptive, just because we don't want to necessarily be completely honest. And if you took that away and everyone was brutally honest, do you actually think that that would result in a better society? I don't know. I think sometimes a little deception for the purposes of getting along, smoothing things over in a, like in a social setting, maybe like you're sat next to someone in a plane and they're doing something and it really bothers you. And they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, should I, am I irritating you?" Like, yeah, I've been sitting here hating you for the last 20 minutes. Is that going to make things better? Or is it like, no, it's fine. I hadn't even noticed until you brought it up. So, sorry, I got distracted by a super chat. Even though I am not trans, I am cishet. Your increased usage of the prefix word cis actually makes me happier than I expected it would. Like I said, there was a lot of, detour. There was a lot of crap that came out of that talk with Jake. A couple good things have come out of it. One of them was my slip up did give me a chance to reflect. And like I said, in the Hangout with Chrisiosity, I'm making the effort to be less binary. It's and it requires effort because it's such a default to me. So thank you for that. And while I'm on the subject, I think it's also good that we're having this conversation about the way that certain people want to claim entitlement to decide for other people what they feel is appropriate in terms of like a sexual reference being made to them. Jake gets to decide for me and for Chrisiosity that we're supposed to not be offended by his comment. And therefore, when we are offended because we find it to be very sexualized comments that are meant to, take us down a notch and put us in a sexualized, put the conversation in a sexualized position, that we're in the wrong for perceiving that power dynamic. And I think having that conversation has been really good. I think a lot of people have commented in the comments that they've thought about this more since just the one-off conversation. So, all right. That was a complete distraction. So, let's see if we can get back on track. This whole show is a distraction. It's not as bad as like when I'm with Kevin, but thank you, by the way, Chris. And also, I'm sorry, bring it in for a hug. Oh, super chats, get a hug. Thank you for that. It's an e-hug, so if you don't want it, just look away. But and for everyone else too, I guess vicariously, you get a hug as well. All right, hitting play.
Recipe for a good world is all there in these 10 sublime commandments. But there is a catch. The 10 commandments are predicated on the belief that they were given by an authority higher than any man, any king, or any government.
Okay, I haven't gotten this far in the video, but my question, maybe, does everyone else have the same question? Why? Surely if these 10 principles were the foundation, the keystones, upon which all great societies, peaceful, thriving, happy societies, godly societies are built, then surely their own merit you don't actually need any other authority because of their efficacy. The fact that they would work so well demonstrates their sort of divine, whatever. They are self-reinforcing, self-justifying. So, sorry. But, so what does adding a god on top of that do? Unless they're really crap and they don't do anything, really, and you have to prop them up because you can't justify them rationally by saying, well, God's way smarter, and God, of course, being the he, right? Because screw little girls. Little boys are violent monsters who need an invisible daddy figure, or they'll ruin society, if you remember from Why God is a He. God, where was I going with this? I don't know. I lost my train of thought because I got all distracted by that awful misandry. Anyway, oh yes, it was the authentication. So if the principles themselves are proof of, their goodness, you don't need God. And if you do need God, then why? What is deficient in them that you need to appeal to a higher authority? Seems to me you can't have it both ways.
That's why the sentence preceding the Ten Commandments asserts the following: God spoke all these words. You see, if the Ten Commandments, as great as they are, were given by any human authority,
oh, this will be good.
Then any person could say, who was this man Moses?
Well, no, again, certainly the proof is in the pudding, not in the debate. So if you organized your society around these principles, you should have the most amazing society ever. And he's saying America should do this, but I don't see the societies that based their frameworks on the Ten Commandments are the most successful. I see the most secular countries in the world as the most prosperous.
Who is this king or queen? Who is this government to tell me how I should behave? Okay.
But when God tells you how to behave, it's okay. Because he's your daddy. You can't question him any more than you can question your daddy in the house. Because if you start to question patriarchy, everything about it falls apart. That's why it's so dangerous to question this sort of male supremacy extended to God, as well as male supremacy on the earth. Crazy ways they put their thoughts together.
So why is God indispensable to the Ten Commandments? Because, to put it as directly as possible, if it isn't God who declares murder wrong, murder isn't wrong.
Why not? Why can't you just look at it and go, I see the grief of the families and all the potential that was wasted? Why isn't that enough? I don't see how that is in any way insufficient to justifying the wrongness of an act. These guys need to do moral philosophy. Hardcore course. Of course they won't, right? Because that's would start the questioning process. And it's too much money in faith.
Yes, this strikes many people today as incomprehensible, even absurd. Many
for
of
good
you are
reason.
thinking, is this guy saying you can't be a good person if you don't believe in God?
That's actually not what he just said. Did you notice that? He did a sort of a sidestep. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but his first point was, unless God says it's murder is wrong, then murder isn't wrong. So we don't have the agency to make our own moral judgments. And then he's moved this goalpost to being a good person. These are two very different questions. Whether or not murder is wrong on its own is a pretty deep question, and I think we answer it pretty satisfactorily by making appeals to things like, I'm sure, all the moral stuff that people know much better than me, the moral philosophers, but consequentialism and all that, Mill and utilitarianism. There's different frameworks for explaining these things. All right, moving on. Let's see what other ridiculous things he has to say.
Let me respond as clearly as possible. I am not saying that. Of course there are good people who don't believe in God.
But is murder wrong unless Okay, he's not addressing that question. Let's see if he does.
Just as there are bad people who do. And many of you are also thinking, I believe murder is wrong. I don't need God to tell me.
Yeah, there you
Now,
go.
that response is only half true.
Oh, this will be
I
good.
have no doubt that if you're an atheist and you say that you believe murder is wrong, you believe murder is wrong. But forgive me, you do need God to tell you. We all need God to tell us. You see, even if you figured out murder is wrong on your own, without God and the Ten Commandments, how do you know it's wrong?
All right. I don't get this idea. I'm assuming we're going to get to the idea of an objective standard, but against which to judge other things. But any standard is a standard, whether it's subjective or objective. And being objective doesn't make it right, and being subjective doesn't make it inauthentic or invalid. So we're going to see.
Not believe it's wrong, I mean know it's wrong.
If this is a question of epistemology, like how do we know what we know? And also, belief here, and is that a set of, so belief is a set of convictions and knowledge is different. How? This is going to be a fun ride. Let's see where it goes.
The fact is, you can't, because without God, right and wrong are just personal beliefs.
Isn't God's opinion a personal belief as well? I mean, really, that's really all it is. It's God's opinion. And if we look at the moral framework we find in the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Bible, I got a question. Moral framework there basically goes against a lot of those universal human rights, women's equality, ending slavery, parliamentary government concepts he brought up at the beginning. No foundation for those really in there, so...
Personal opinions. I think
Just an
shoplifting
opinion.
is okay, you don't.
All right.
Unless there is a God, all morality is just opinion and belief.
Oh, this is so weak. God has to exist because we need him to. And of course, that's not a convincing argument. Because we look at societies, if you look at human societies, studies, most, the societies, even when they have war and killing other people, they don't do it within the group. We have those social cohesion things, and part of that is regulating things like, messing around on your partner and jealousy in some cases, in other cases not, stealing other people's stuff, killing people. All societies have worked these things out in their own ways. So again, this is more of an appeal to their need for a God than evidence for one.
Virtually every atheist philosopher has acknowledged this.
Citation needed. Who are the atheist philosophers? I want that list. Who does he count as an atheist philosopher? And where are all their, the citations exactly saying that if God doesn't exist, you can't know right from wrong? Come on. That's just
Another
ridiculous.
problem with the view that you don't need God to believe that murder is wrong is a lot of people haven't shared your view. And you don't have to go back very far in history to prove this. In the 20th century, millions of people in communist societies and under Nazism killed about 100 million people.
Should we also talk about all of the massacres described in the Hebrew Bible, where he's also getting this 10 Commandments from? And the wars and the atrocities that were commanded by God? And, like the killing of little boys? Is it Numbers 47? And when Moses is taking too long, God gets really mad at him. And also the girls, all the women that have known men were murdered, but all of the ones that were virgins were handed out among the men as their spoils of war. And we want to talk about atrocities. We can go way farther back than the 20th century.
And that doesn't count a single soldier killed in war. So don't get too confident about people.
Again, I'm just going to point out what I just said. Numbers, all the atrocities.
People's ability to figure out right from wrong without a higher authority. It's all too easy to be swayed by a government or a demagogue.
How are you swayed by a government? I mean, I get the demagogue because that's a person who talks. But to be swayed by a government, most governments in, democracies, they're arguing all the time. They're not saying one thing.
Or an ideology, or to rationalize that the wrong you're doing isn't really wrong.
Yeah, kind of like killing babies, even though you have the 10 Commandments, because God said it was okay. Or holy war, the invention. Basically, jihad was invented by the Christians in that way. That holy war of going and taking territory, but it was okay because it was for Jerusalem and God. Kind of like that. And they had the 10 Commandments. Oh, we're not going to talk about the failure of the 10 Commandments to actually improve society throughout history and the religions that have had it. Oh, okay.
And even if you do figure out what is right and wrong, God is still necessary.
So, you can't do it without him. But even if you can, you still need him. No matter what. I'm telling you, please believe me. I'm trying to convince myself. Is it working? Am I convincing you? It's not a very good argument, but it's all I have.
People who know the difference between right and wrong do the wrong thing all the time. You know why? Because they can.
Yeah, like people who break the speed limit. Oh, wait, people do that all the time. Cross against a red light. I do that too often. People do right and people do wrong. And it's not about whether or not they know that God is God they know that a God gave us, or gave a group of people back thousands of years ago, to a very specific group of people about how they are supposed to live. It was never given to the Gentiles. The Gentiles ended up appropriating it when when Jesus went pagan, went really big. He was the Beatles of his day in the pagan world at that time. But anyway, getting on with it. I'm getting a little slap happy.
Because they think no one is watching. But if you recognize that God is the source of moral law, you believe that he is always watching.
He's kind of a voyeuristic kind of creep, God. Because he never intervenes when he sees terrible stuff. He just sits and watches it, which makes him really amoral, in my opinion. To sit back and watch suffering and do nothing. Just go, it's not really my job. I mean, I'm just all powerful. What do you want me to do about it? And I just think the idea of a God watching you all the time, or thinking that someone's watching you all the time, talk about a surveillance internal state.
So even if you're an atheist, you would want people to live by the moral laws of the 10 Commandments.
I have to say no, because in the 9th commandment, it treats women as property. And it talks about obeying your parents, which isn't always the best thing to do for a child's safety, because parents aren't always right about what happens or what they're doing to their children. So, no, I don't want unquestioning obedience to a single statement in some sort of totalitarian patriarchy. The God Stapo.
And even
yes,
an
thank you,
atheist
Techno
has
Squidgy.
to admit that the more people who believe God gave them, and therefore they are not just opinion, the better the world would be.
Disagreed. I think people should reflect upon and construct a moral framework after reflection that is grounded in compassion and egalitarianism, intersectionality, recognizing different power structures, and that they internalize that themselves and live by it because it matters to them, because they think it's right, rather than being a mindless slave to a series of instructions that are already outdated if you look at the ones about festivals, So I'm not saying get rid of the universal things like, don't murder and don't steal, but keeping the Lord's Day and not saying the Lord's name in vain, none of that is necessary for a good society.
In 3,000 years.
And you don't have to believe God said it to do good things, and those things aren't even good. So, no, he's wrong.
No one has ever come up with a better system than the God-based 10 Commandments for making a better world, and no one ever will.
No, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Way better on every count. It's more comprehensive. It includes, it's not exclusively directed at men. You think the Ten Commandments was written with an audience of women in mind? No, because you only talk to the people who have power and who matter, and that was the guys. So, again, this is just, it's too easy. It's too easy, you guys. This stuff is too easy. How long have we been going? Oh, an hour. All right. I said an hour 15, I think, when we started. But I guess also that includes like the 7 minutes of pre-show time. I'm trying to decide if I want a break or not. And here's the thing. My one foot is starting to tingle from how I'm sitting. I will take a short break and be back. And then I'm just going to talk about hip-hop. So if you guys want to hang around for that, you can. Also, I'll talk to the chat too when I get back. So if you want to hashtag me in or at me, not hashtag me, but if you want to at me in the chat during the break, then you can, and I'll scroll back. I'll check out what you guys have to say. Other than that, I'll see you in, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, whenever the heck I feel like coming back. That's when I'll be back. But it won't be like 12, unless I fall down and I have to crawl over to the mic and say, help. But hopefully that won't happen. I am getting slap happy. All right, let me get this ready, bring up the music, and I'll see you guys in a few. And we're back! Hello, 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 everyone. That was a quick break, wasn't it? That seemed pretty quick to me, anyway. Yeah, you can see me. Everything is good. Oh, damn it. I went and I got mandarin oranges as a snack, and then I left them all the way over there. But if I go, this chair is really difficult to get in and out of, so I'm just gonna look at them longingly for a second. My mandarin oranges. Alright, well, motivation to end the stream faster. I just found that. Right, so I said I would talk to you guys in the chat, see if anyone... Yeah, Jonathan, I see you've got the begging bowl out. People can go to that link to help Joanna. Tristan meant Shu and Dusty are both former shitlords and trying to get in good with the left because they're afraid of the direct... the right went in. The direction the right went in. I mean, sorry, I had the oranges and then now my, 1 second. Oof, right, where was I? I couldn't comment on that in terms of Shu's content, and I know Dusty had a lot of critiques of himself and the direction of things. So I don't know that it's, I mean, of course, in a chat message here, you can't get into the more complicated nuance of it. But if it's as simple as they both saw things where things were going and they, wanted to go in a different direction, I don't know if that's the comparable story. Certainly not in terms of the way they've gone about it. And I think Dusty's was not merely a political journey or a cosmetic content change, but it was a after true reflection and self-evaluation. That's my take. I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm just saying maybe as summed up, that's incomplete. Yeah, I'm tweeting or streaming in an hour that you're awake, Adam. I'm gonna have to wrap this up if my voice doesn't clear up. This has gotten ridiculous. I thought mandarins would help. Clearly they have the opposite effect. Ugh. Right. Oh, by the way, I checked and it is 29 degrees in my apartment. So that's getting close to 90. Right. Slightly disturbed by Bernie not knowing how the Supreme Court works. I'm worried about his state of mind. Yeah, there was kind of a flippant remark for something that would be such a profound change, and obviously it raises an immediate constitutional question because of the way that we currently do it and the way that they're, confirmed by the Senate. The idea that we would have 25 nominations in confirmation hearings for a rotating series of judges who would serve exactly how long, and then every president it would be a never-ending just carousel of nominations just to get enough of the pool going. But anyway, how do I feel Kamala Harris performed at the debates that Trump described as boring? Yeah, I think people saw what I saw. I mentioned this at the top of the show, but I just think people saw on stage last night what I saw months ago. And she's in it it's a marathon, not a sprint. She's a prosecutor. She comes with a plan. She comes prepared. She doesn't say, she's honing her craft. Obviously, then the scrutiny of a presidential campaign is unlike literally anything else in the world. Comparably, when you talk about the US media and the 24-hour news cycle especially. But I think she stood out and made a name for herself, and people noticed her, and now it's of course up to her. What can she do to build on that going forward? Same with Elizabeth Warren, who had a breakaway night. Now, of course, when we come to the next debate, people will recalibrate. I saw this in 2010 when the British had their first televised leader debates with the three sort of main party leaders, Nick Clegg, David Cameron, and Gordon Brown. And Nick Clegg had a standout first night performance. He wowed people. They had a phenomenon called Cleggmania. And the other candidates recalibrated and went after him at different things. So it's like in baseball, you don't know how things are going to turn out. You go, well, that's why they play them, and this is why we have primaries. Let's see what happens. Why did Rebecca Watson never get big like other OG atheists? I think the whole Dawkins thing, probably. I think there was a lot of sexism, in my opinion. I wasn't on YouTube and I wasn't active in the atheist scene when all of that happened, or I would have had a take at the time. I think that whole thing, because it's such a dude party, it skews towards cis men and white older sometimes, but just, it skews cis men. Women atheists are very rare, of all types, and people of color are very rare. Therefore, she doesn't have the natural audience that even an armored skeptic. I don't know if you could ever get the data, but I would imagine there's a lot of crossover between, like Armored's content and Sargon and Thunderfoot and that whole sort of boys club trading, and the Bible Reloaded was part of that too, trading viewers back and forth and cross-promoting and, helping each, basically they're kind of, maybe not consciously or in some ways, marketing it, but creating community. And that audience was hostile to her because of what happened. I mean, that's complete conjecture. You just asked me, so that's my complete conjecture. I still like his politics, thing about Bernie, but I'm starting to think there might be something, the idea 80 is too old to lead a country. I'm going to turn that not for Bernie, but I'm going to turn that on Biden. And I'm really becoming bored of Biden riding Obama's coattails. Like, seriously, just move. Like, what are you going to do? Don't stop looking back. We can't go back to Obama because of what Trump has done. Trump has necessitated a series of congressional reforms, especially around the issues of emoluments and interference with FBI investigations or obstruction of justice. Congress might want to, try to look at this Justice Department rule that says the president can't be indicted. So there's a lot of things we have to deal with looking forward, just to just to deal with that part of our democracy, let alone gerrymandering and voter suppression. The Florida governor just passed a bill trying to require that, I don't know if this is going to go through. I mean, he signed it, I think, so I don't know if there's going to be any kind of constitutional or whatever challenges to it. But people who are felons who served their sentence, who had previously lost their voting rights, now could only gain them back after they paid off all their fines, which of course is designed to stop poor people from voting. That's the stuff we need to be talking about, not what Obama did. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things Obama did that were good. There were things that he did that were meh. There were things that he did that lots of people have problems with. But we're not going to sell the American people on a future by talking about the past. And that between his gaffes, and also it's his rigidity. Biden, to me, came across as 20th century. He's still very much living in that era where he spent most of his life. And a lot of other people on the stage felt 21st century. Do I mean there are less women, well, it's, like cis women, atheists overall, or even trans women, or any kind of trans people in the atheist movement, or fewer of the famous ones? Both. If you look at self-identified atheists, actually, I can pitch my Oxford University Press article here. I have a book chapter coming out in the Oxford University Press Encyclopedia on Religion and Politics, I think is the name of it. And I did a chapter on the rise of the nuns, N-O-N-E-S, the non-believers in the United States. And when there's a Pew or Gallup, I wrote this article 7 or 8 months ago now. I think it's Pew Religion of like Religion and Life Survey or something. They track self-identified atheists, agnostics, spiritual but not religious over time. And when you break it down, atheists, like 65% are self-identified men, because that's just man, woman on the survey. And 30% identify as women. Agnostics, about the same. But when you get to spiritual but not religious, it's like 60+% spiritual but not religious are women, and a third are men. So we definitely see, in terms of self-identification and also maintaining a spirituality as an American, obviously this is just American data, so I can't generalize to Britain or anywhere else, but in this case, it's just fewer women call themselves atheists or agnostics. So, right, okay, that was it. Okay, we need to stop this, or I'm not going to get to the hip-hop, and I've been trying to get to the hip-hop for a couple weeks now. I see highly critical as a question. Well, I can't not answer that one. How do I feel about the suggestion to get rid of the filibuster if the Dems get control of the Senate? I feel it's very short-sighted. I'm ambivalent, which is to say, I think that there is a good thing about the filibuster and having that break on legislation. I also, like, these things have been degraded, and so if Mitch McConnell's changed the rules, are we going to put the barriers up and make things that much harder, give the Republicans an easier time to filibuster and reward them, and punish ourselves because we're ethical? And maybe that's the right decision in terms of principle, but in terms of fixing the problem, it would just make it harder to fix the problems the Republicans have created. So I don't have an easy answer, yes, the filibuster, no, the filibuster. I think it's a very big question that deserves a lot of thought about the consequences, less so about sort of how it's working now and thinking about what would it be like if we didn't have it. So is it a barrier, though, to, popular will? Definitely. So that's maybe a good case we have removed through constitutional amendment. And the filibuster wouldn't require that. Except for the Electoral College, pretty much the other barriers that the founders put in to make sure propertied white men were the ones eligible to vote, and also that their representatives, who of course are going to be well-educated white men of a certain educational background and worldview, would actually be the ones to send the elector for the Senate. They wouldn't have direct elections of senators and whatever else. All right, I'm babbling now. All right, there's another link that Jonathan's put in the chat. Actually, when it comes to LGBTQ plus, it's they're actually much more likely to be atheist or agnostic. That's actually, and because my thesis, we don't have a correlation, but I think the whole anti-marriage equality push by religion has alienated a lot of people, and so actually, that gets covered in my article about the high amount of skepticism, or I think it's if you consider like atheist, agnostic, and spiritual but not religious as nuns, then in terms of that community, it's way higher than other demographics that you can break it down by. So yeah, when that comes out, not by Oxford University Press, you should check it out. I actually had somebody say to me, because I was criticizing Chu on Twitter, someone said to me, she's got like 1 million subs and what have you done? So I took a picture of the email I got from the Oxford University Press dude, and it was my honorarium. They were going to pay me for my chapter, which is the first time I've actually ever been offered money for anything I've published. Whee! So I'm going to go on vacation with that money. Yeah, so I just sort of did a photo, a screenshot of that. And said, well, this came in the mail this week. And they said it was forged. They said nice forgery. Like, yeah, that's what I spend my days doing. It's not like when the book comes out, people aren't going to see my book chapters not in there. Oh, it's so hard for some people to admit they're wrong. All right. Okay, let me tell you a little story. I'm going to tell you guys about some amazing YouTube hip-hop drama going on. It has been going on, you guys can catch up with, and not only can you watch the original artists, which I recommend you watch all the artists, all the artists to see what's going on, but also, like some of the reaction videos as well, because that too, other people's reactions I always find, well, 1, entertaining, but 2, very educational, and 3, gives me perspectives on the world or on the music scene that I hadn't had before. So all of it to me is just like awesome. But it kicked off when Dax, and we've covered Dax on this channel. This is a very talented rapper, but he's got some kind of shady business practices he runs, and he's made some people who are also YouTube rappers upset by the way he's conducted himself. And there was some subliminal disses appearing in the songs of, and actually I think some people are just outright complaining about him. Dax put out this video called Whack Ass Rappers. He says it's a freestyle and a one-take video, but I have to say, it's not a one-take video because there are cuts all over the place. It's highly edited, actually. And I mean, my idea of a one-take is you just do it in one in one take in the video, but there's in this video he teased it to his fans saying, oh, if my previous video, whatever one he put up, gets 1 million likes or 1 million views, then I'm going to release this diss track and I'm really going to come at some people. Sorry. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm having a hard time with my throat today. So much better. Dax dropped this diss track, and it was like, it was a hip hop track, but it wasn't a diss track. He didn't bring a lot of like new stories or new drama or talk a lot about, what his beef is with these guys and personal put downs or whatever else. And it was a fine song, but it wasn't really a diss track. Well, then the guys, and so he named 4 rappers, from what I remember: Screwface Jean and Crypt, Chase, and Hi-Rez. Before a day had passed, Chase had a response out. Clearly, Chase had known that this diss track was coming out. He suspected that he would be on it, but Chase didn't have to wait for Dax. Normally, you hear a diss track and you kind of respond to it. Chase already had things he had to say. He had things he wanted to get off his chest. And he dropped this response video within, like I said, 16 hours or 24 hours of it. And in here, he just airs out the dirty laundry about how Dax had cheated him out of money, how he had recycled bars from other songs, how he had screwed people over, and just went after him. And that was based on their personal interactions. So that came out. And then the next one was Hi-Rez. Now, Kendra is Dax's ex-girlfriend's name or whatever. But Hi-Rez had his own beef. Some of it had been actually touched on, I think, by Chase above. But he had his whole thing he wanted to say. And that was, this one is pretty serious. There's some comedy elements to it, but there's a lot of emotion and a lot of anger and a lot of betrayal, but at the end Chase, I should say, in this video here, kind of offers an olive branch. He's like, get in touch with me offline, maybe we can clear this up. Hi-Rez is pretty dark, and he's got a lot of punchlines and talks a lot about his experience with Dax. Then next to come out, because remember he dissed 4 rappers, and so far Chase definitely beat him on, in terms of, you want to measure a diss track, and this is from what I'm hearing from the community, and I am forming my own opinions, and here's where I agree. Because I like lyricism. I like ribbity rap. I like punchlines, and I want to hear bars. So for me, if you bring out a diss track and it's interesting to listen to, and it's witty, and I want to hear it again because I like the lines, if it doesn't have the best beat in the world, that's fine, because I'm there for the bars. I'm not really there to dance. And if you have a diss track that you can dance to, but it's also a great diss track, in my opinion, great. But if you're going to have a diss track, then have a diss track. And when you watch Dax, you're going to see it's not really, he complains about people, and he kind of says, oh, they're babies and they're taking stuff from me and I'm the greatest, whatever else. But he's not really bringing this is what my problem is with you. And Chase and Hi-Rez definitely bring that. So he dissed 4 guys, and it just all wiped him out. So then the next person who brought out their video was Screwface Jean, who, where is he? He should be in here. He should be in this list, because all the other ones are. And we gotta find him now. Dax disc. Put Screw. We definitely have to. You see, I watch the reactions and everything. Yeah, that's not the one from 4 months ago. He did one, you have to go to his channel. But his was way more on the comedy side of it. He was more making fun of Dax and having fun with his video and having fun with his song. So it was a different feel. It was a lot of the same content in terms of shady business practices. Dax did this terrible thing with a rapper who had died, and he got this clip from someone who had bought some bars from him, and had a recording of him before he died. And Dax got a hold of it, and he took it and he used it on his own song. And so there's some really really bad stuff. That's why watching the reactions, people explain some of the background. I didn't know all of the stuff about Little Peep, and how shady Jack Dax was on that. And so some of these, you don't always get the punchlines, and that's why the reaction videos are, like I said, an education. And then the last one that came up was Crypt. And when Crypt did his, he brought the other guys who did the other 3 videos to participate in it. I don't think he'll go after me. So let's just have a little look, because I'll show you the other. I won't put the sound on. I'll just hit the video. And they were all together. And they filmed, so Crypt did his own diss track on Dax. And, I'm going to mute that. I think the desktop audio was muted for you, but it wasn't for me. And these are the 4 guys like hanging out together. So it brought the hip hop, like part of the hip hop community, much closer together. These guys did this collab, in person, but it was on Crypt's track. So that was, that is enough to be getting on with. That is enough of the drama for you guys to like watch reaction videos and check it out. But did Adam Rainstopper says, did you hear my Dave Rubin diss track? No. Oh, you're joking. It sucks, but I tried. You can post it in the chat if you want to share it. So, thanks for the town crier. Yeah, the eulogy video. And then after these guys got together and did this, they brought out, is it on Crypt's channel? I'll just see. They did a collab together. It was Clicked Up, I think was the name of it. Yeah, Clicked Up. So after they had done that collab, like dissing Dax, they also just wrote a whole new song together. They're still wearing the same clothes as they were in that funeral video we just watched. So again, I'll just kind of give you guys a little. It was on Screw's channel. And also he's got this great, what you're watching right now is actually from the Dax diss. When he's out in the street, and you can also, I don't know if he's going to have his costume on. Oh, that's his Dax costume right there at the end. He was just, as I say, playing. He was really having fun with that. And this is the merch for the Clicked Up official video merch. And these guys are in it to make money, right? So, do my little bit to shout them out. And then he's with Tech Nine, which is amazing, but I've seen it 5 times. But yes, Tech Nine, oh my gosh, his album, I'm gonna say officially, and it's early days because I'm still, digging my way through all of the back catalog of hip hop. But currently my favorite hip hop artist is Tech Nine for so many reasons. Like, he's such a good guy, and I also like his flow, and his lyricism is so amazing. So yeah, he's my number 1 favorite right now. We'll see if he gets tied for someone else. But so this is their video. It's fantastic, and it's really great that these guys are all coming together. Sorry, it wasn't High Res, it was Dwayne. My apologies. Who was on there? I think Dwayne must also. Oh yeah, Dwayne had a diss. That's right, but his didn't have a video. It was just an audio. So you'll have to look up Dwayne as well, because he also had a diss track. So there's just like so much amazing rap going on YouTube, and these guys are so like, they're pushing themselves in terms of their craft, and yeah, I mean, it's just like listening to some of the bars and how quickly they make stuff too. They've been just churning videos out in the last couple weeks. I don't know, like, if it's the summer or the weather or whatever, but they're doing a great job. So definitely check out Clicked Up on Screwface John's channel. He's got the most amazing fans too. There's so much love from SFJ Nation, and they've come occasionally to my chat, and they just are really great people. So he's a great talent. All of them in their own ways have their own talents that they bring, and it's nice to watch them mix up. So with the last person I'm going to do a shout out for, and it's still one of these. So here's Screwface or Screw Reactions. That's his channel. Go, as you can see, subscribe. Go subscribe. Is Crypt, because Crypt brought out something last night that's, I think, really clever. So with Screwface, he's got this swagger, and he's got this like, I love his presence on camera, and I love he loves rap battles, he loves battle rap, he loves diss tracks, he loves that, he's just got a passion for that, and it pushes him creatively, and the fire is just so contagious. But the last one I'm going to do, and then I'll maybe do a couple more, I am the whitest hip hop fan. Go, you know who got me started? I'll just really fast is, I will tell you who to blame for this. And it's another white lady. She like, I felt like, okay, well, she likes it, then maybe, you know, I can like it too. And it was a self-exclusion. I'm going to be honest. It was like a whole, a false equivalence of somehow I can't appreciate this from an outsider's role if I just accept that this, you know, I'm not an outsider's role, but like I'm coming into something I don't know about. Earworm. She, I can't remember her name now. She's got great Spotify lists, but I will also recommend this. Yeah. If you like music and you want to learn more about it, go to Earworm, and I can't remember her name again, but she does a whole bunch of videos about, well, all kinds of music, but also she just loves hip hop, and she like all kinds of deep stuff, technical stuff, and early hip hop, and rhyme schemes and flow patterns. She did a video actually on the Migos flow. I bet I could find that. Earworm Vox. Triplet? Yes. How the triplet flow took over rap. All right, so that's what got, and then yeah, like rapping, deconstructing the best rhymers of all time. So Vox promoted this, and then with her explaining it, I was given a framework for understanding the genre, a kind of a 101 that suddenly opened it up to me intellectually to appreciate it on such a more profound level than just something you hear on the radio. And that's where it started. And then it was like walking into a building and realizing the architecture. On the outside, you just thought it was like, you know, this sort of, you know, nice looking building. Then you walk inside and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in here. I had no idea. I can't, like, there's this to look at and this to look at. And oh my God, how do they do that? So yeah, if you want to catch the bug, go and watch Earworm, all of the hip hop episodes on that. And then I grew up when this song was released. The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And Crip, who does some really interesting things with his lyrics. He thinks a lot about his bars, and because he raps so fast, sometimes they go by you. So you have to listen multiple times and maybe get the lyrics and think about his word choice, because 90 times out of 100, he's chosen a word for a particular reason. I think sometimes, obviously, you need a filler word or something that's just obvious or easy to finish the rhyme scheme. But he really does have a deliberation to his word structure, which, because he doesn't have a natural rapper's voice, I don't want to like make that sound bad, but maybe we can listen to him a little bit. He's not like, yeah, he's not sort of the person that you would associate with a rapper's voice. And so by focusing on the lyrics, you know, he brings that game to it that changes how I listen to it. So I'll have to do the audio a little bit on this. And I know a lot of other people who reviewed this because I watched their reactions. So I think we'll be okay for first few seconds.
Probably did this for closure, but listen closer. You'll notice all it did was
Oh, this is all time? Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna skip over the advertisement here because we saw that before. We gave him his due. All right, and there's the clicked up stuff. What happened? It says the devil went down to hip hop, but that's not the video that it's showing me. How weird. Let's try this again. There we go. All right. Sorry, I'm gonna have to start it again because I didn't realize it started like boom. All right. Also, the video production on this is so good.
The devil went down to hip-hop and he was looking for another soul to snatch. And even though his bag was overflowed with rappers from the past, you know we wanted more in his stack. You see, the devil was greedy and he needed more people to heed to his name and start leaving the steeples, cause he is so evil and very deceitful. He feeds on the minds of the ones who are feeble, so he made his way through the rap game.
Alright, so did you guys catch the special guest appearance there? For those of you who are on the the happy hour, you might recognize that as No Life Shaq. Right there, he's made a special guest appearance because he was also around when my best went visiting Crypt, so he also got to take part in the video, which is really cool. I'll play a few more seconds and then I'll stop because you guys could go watch it on the artist channel so they get the traffic.
Looking for a name that doesn't have fame. Then he strode stumble across an independent man writing rhymes at a bar with a pen in his hand, and he defines a plan for his eternal soul. We go bar for bar, we go toe to toe. So we walked up to the one that they call Crypto, put a gold microphone to his lips, and he said, I bet you might have guessed it, but I am quite the spitter myself. I spend a lot of time writing rhymes, and let's say in hell there's a lot of help. I got half the rap game stole in exchange for some fame and wealth, and I'll offer you the same thing, boy, and that's the deal that I've dealt. And Crip said, do you want better? You can keep everything that you just mentioned, but when I win this battle, leave that microphone in my feet and begin your dissension. I'm not like the rest of these rappers that you promise fame and shiny jewels. You've done lost to a god once, now it's time to make it 0 for 2.
You done lost to a god once, now it's time to make it 0 for 2. That's a great line. That's a really great line. That's what I wanted to get to. All right, that's the kind of stuff that I like about Crip's bars. Yeah, so there you go. You've got someone was asking me if I heard of Snotty Nose, Rez Kids, Haystack, or Carnage, the Executioner. I've not. I have so much to learn. I've also been recommended a lot of British hip hop artists, and I know one way I can catch up on that is that No Life Shack actually has an entire playlist where he has UK hip hop artist videos that he's covered in the past. I think there was some problem with monetization. Sorry, you guys. I think it's a heat or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I need to start there. Maybe when I'm traveling, I'll download some of those videos and listen to them on the plane. Anything else from the chat? And so I'm sounding like Dusty now. All right. Oh yeah, and the Don't Stop Me Now. Yes. Check out Kala Fire in the Booth Part 1. Okay, gosh. I need to make a list somewhere. Someone has to make me a playlist called Hip Hop for Christy. And then make it public and people can add stuff. And then I'll just watch all of that. Who can do that for me? All right. So guys, I'm running out of things to say. And this has been so much fun as always. I gotta talk about grinding on YouTube, how you gotta show up and be regular, and that's half the battle. It's just putting out content on a regular basis. But I do really look forward to the show too, and talking with you guys. It's a way for me to get out some of the ideas that rattle around in my head. I can't always talk to about with colleagues or friends who aren't interested in the things I'm interested in. And honestly, if you're here, you don't have to be. So you get to listen to whatever I want to talk about mostly. But if you didn't want to, you wouldn't be here. So clearly some of you like it. All right. I have absolutely no idea when I will do a next happy hour with Kevin. However, we should be on a more regular schedule for Sunday next week. If that changes, I'll let you know. Although, to be honest, I actually thought I'd set up this hangout for 3 o'clock before I left for Norway. And then I went to change the time because I wanted a nap and I hadn't set up the darn thing at all. So who knows? But I'll try to give you guys notice either on Winter Snowflakes or on Twitter or on my Facebook page. That's normally where I put these things. And to those of you guys in the chat, thank you for coming by. Thank you for hanging out with me. And thank you also to Chris for the super chat. That was unexpected and very, very nice to receive. So thank you again for that. And until next time, guys, I'm going to now do that thing where I get, I'll tell you what, I'll do to camera so you get a little bit of cute puppy before the end of the show. All right. So people in the chat have been awesome. People watching in the future, thank you so much for stopping by. I will put timestamps when I have a chance to watch back the show. And until next time, guys, I was Christy, you were awesome. I did that out of order. I'm just going to blame the tiredness. All right, stopping the stream now. Catch you guys later.